Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 125th iteration of the show, recorded on the first month of the year, January 25th, 2015. So
125 has our 125th.
Yeah, interesting.
Almost as if we planned it, but really it's just an eventual, random sequence that makes sense.
And 125 is the cube of 5, which I guess, I don't know if that has, we're not going to deal with that too much.
I think cubes are always worth knowing.
Yeah,
but,
cubes are nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. My name is Josh Levin, and with me as always on the other microphone, that other voice that you're not hearing yet, but you will in 2, 1.
Mathematical ponderer extraordinaire, Ryan Kirkby.
Ryan. Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. I did find something interesting out this week that I want to lead in quickly to a little bit of a conspiracy. I like to put in the conspiracy stuff every once in a while. This one isn't a big one, but I was playing around with the various, alphabet fridge magnets that we have for my daughter, and I'm moving stuff around. First of all, doing a test. Okay, which letters are we missing? Like Z and B. I have no idea where those ones got off to. I'm sure we'll find.
That's unfortunate, given your daughter's name, but
yeah. But that's okay. She can't be too busy without BZ. But I'm looking around and it's like, oh, wait a minute, if I put this letter here and this one goes here, and then before I know it, I've spelled out Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos of the Cthulhian, stories, which I found to be rather interesting, because I mean, you could make an insidious claim. The average alphabet sticker magnet, combo contains enough letters to spell out Cthulhian monstrosities. Coincidence? And the answer is, actually, of course it is. If you look at the letters in Nyarlathotep, there's only one letter repeated. It's the letter A. So anyone that has an appropriate amount of vowels for the consonants, which they should, I mean, one of each is not going to get you very far for spelling things, so... we had like 4 A's in our sets. So, it's like 2 A's per package that we bought. So, yeah, you can clearly get it. So, it initially seems like mysterious and dark. It's like, oh my goodness, how could it possibly spell out such a horrible being's name? It's like, well, that's just because the letters don't repeat very often. That's the only trick to it. It's just like that old thing where they try and show, it's like, okay, take a look at your, this one card I've got. And then they'll show, 5 other cards. It's like, is your card in one of these? And the answer is no. And it's like, oh my goodness, how did you know, that you'd removed my card? And the thing is like, well, you're paying attention to that one card. You don't pay attention to the other 4. And what you don't realize is that they're all new cards. None of the cards got repeated. Or any of those math tricks, like you take this number and you multiply it by that, do it like this, and then, oh, hey, the number you have should be the number 9. And that's like, well, based on the math, of course, you worked out anything but the outcome of 9. It couldn't be anything except that, so... It's one of those things that seems almost like, oh my goodness, what a cool magic trick, or, oh my goodness, what a conspiracy, but when you look at it rationally, it's just like, oh,
okay,
well, of course you can do that. You could spell almost any name that doesn't repeat. So long as you don't have, 3 A's in your name, you're pretty good for a single set. You're covered even for a double set.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head whether Lovecraft typed on a typewriter or wrote longhand?
I believe he would have had to do a typewriter for sending in some submissions, but from what I've been told, there was a lot of longhand.
Yeah, I think that era was kind of, and it was said of him that he was sort of from another time.
He was a prolific, writer. Towards the end, he was, like skipping meals to pay for postage stamps to, have correspondence with you. This is a guy who really could have used the internet. This is a man who could have used, Google, stuff going on. He could have used the MSN Messenger. He could have used anything, and that would have saved him a lot of cash.
But when they go to print his stories, like either in a magazine or a newspaper, they actually literally, like this was back in the time, before computers. It's hard to wrap our minds around it. But they literally, like at the print
had to put
shop,
everything in the print shop backwards, sort of thing.
It's you line up all the individual letters, like into words. So Nyarlathotep would have been, like a physical N, physical capital N. And
some of them were all capital stuff. There wasn't any other option.
Yeah.
Some of these zines weren't exactly the biggest, most expensive stuff. They only had like an uppercase. They couldn't afford lowercase stuff.
Oh, were they really? That's interesting. There might be.
Financial limitations. It doesn't print as well when you've got the lower letters with those little spots in between the A and the wind up. So if you try that, it's like, oh, now it's just a giant big black spot, and you can't see that. There's supposed to be a nice white circle on the inside of an A there.
Yeah.
So like capital letters for everything.
And I imagine, like, if you came up with a creature and you said, okay, this creature is named Xekilizid.
What was that? There's like a name of a boat that's like the XXXYZ or something weird.
And if you wrote a novel and one page happened to have like, I don't know, 30 iterations of that same word in there, just because you happen to use it a lot for whatever the scene, in theory, your print shop, your publisher might be like, hey, what are you trying to do here? We can't put that all on.
We only got so many X's, buddy.
I don't know. That might not be, because they might have like, I think they would have like drawers and drawers full.
They should. Whether or not they, like I said, not all these were the biggest, for publication, financial resources going on here.
And do you have to, like, when you print a book like that, and I'm sure there's somebody out there who's listening who knows a little bit more about this, but do you do one page at a time? Like you line up all the letters, and you do that page, and you print off
10,000 copies of that page, go on to the next page, print. Well, it'd have to be both sides of the page thing, unless you really want to get things slow.
Actually, I do remember this. I remember from journalism class.
Very nice.
That we used to do things in signatures of 16. Now, I don't know if they would do a whole 16, that's a lot. That's a very large sheet of paper that they sort of fold and then fold into 16ths and then cut the edges off so that it makes it actual shape. But when you print out, so you would do 16 pages worth of that sort of thing on a huge press.
I think it would work the same way that you see, stop the presses for the newspaper stuff, whereas each bit is printing the one thing, and then they all get folded up together.
Yeah. But I think at some point, there's literally a person has to use their finger to push and shove each letter in place. And then you print 10,000, and then you move on to the next, and you have to take all the letters out again.
This was the necessity that was the mother of invention for the fax machine, for the photocopier, for the computer printing thing. All that stuff all became, thankfully obsoleted. The old push it in with your finger, make sure everything's spelt properly backwards. I hope you don't have any problems, with your C's always going backwards and having everything spelt the other way around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're in for a loop. I imagine it would take a specialized person to get that quickly, be able to read one way and then flip it and then assemble the letters properly.
I'd imagine it's just a skill that, it's like the Matrix. You remember that? He's looking at the computer screen. He's like,
I don't even see people anymore. The streams anymore. That's a blonde, brunette, redhead there. Yeah. On the other hand, that might also explain the lack of lowercase letters, so that way you don't have the B, D, P, Q confusions. Which, okay. I can read pretty well, backwards or anything, read on the other side of, a glass, say, what are your sales on here, my good vendor, and I'm looking back, on the inside of the mirror, and I'm pretty good for that, but I still get the B, D, P, Q confusion sometimes with the lowercase. Simply because it looks like, I know this letter, it's P. And it's like, no, buddy, that's a Q, because it's backwards. So.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the conspiracy stuff is, the logical explanation completely demolishes it within like seconds of realizing, oh, of course it can spell such a horrible name. Any name that doesn't repeat that often will have that ability.
Can we just step back like
Yes.
2 steps and say, like, what exactly I know it's only sort of nebulous, but what theory is sort of forming in your mind around this? Like, what are you coalescing around?
Well, it's like those old things where you take, prove something, is Satan. So they'll go like Barney. What is Barney? He's a cute purple dinosaur. Put that into the Roman stuff so that U's become V's. Find all the Roman letters in there, C's, I's, V's, add it all up. Number equals 666. If you're looking hard enough, of course, you'll find something that adds up like that.
But, can we... I mean, of course, obviously, it's not rational. So, but if you were to make an accusation, would you say, like, and this is how conspiracies are sort of like snowball or become things, is that if you were to actually turn it into an accusation, would you say, oh, the manufacturer of these alphabets, maybe they had like a cultist in their factory, or do you think like
they've been infiltrated?
Do you think they're run by or owned by like some kind of Cthulhian cult? Do you think?
Probably not run by. If there's one thing I've learned from reading the various stuff on how to make up in fiction, like a conspiracy group, it doesn't have to be completely made up. It just has to have that one powerful linchpin person orchestrating things, so that you can have a lot of people that are completely innocent but still part of the nefarious plans. Mm-hmm. Is it okay to bust into the magnet producing factory and just start shooting people at random? No, these people aren't aware that they're part of the big conspiracy. The person who decides how many letter A's goes in with that person who made sure that you can spell the horrible names of the forgotten and unknowable entities beyond space, that's the person who is, and that's the linchpin that's compromised the entire company.
So it's sort of a middle management kind of person.
We'll call it partially upper management, because you got to make that executive decision. Probably not the CEO, but definitely somebody in there within the position of power.
Okay.
And they're the one that gets in, and that way you can have like a cabal, we'll say, of 24 people. If you have 2 people, infiltrating into an organization to get into those linchpin points, well, congratulations, 24 people divided by 2 is 12 corrupted organizations that are like almost completely innocent of malicious wrongdoing. Everyone else is just following the orders. They're like the higher ups said, okay, yeah, whatever. He thought it was a good idea. I'm paying him to make good decisions, so I figured he made a good decision.
Okay, so that's one possible direction to go with conspiracies. Now there could be another one where it's sort of more personal or even more supernatural, where there's might be some kind of alien spiritual entity that's haunting either your house or somewhere near your house, which affects the probability of the letters that come out of your particular package. So
that's the thing. There should be always the same letters per package.
Okay.
What you could say though is you could go back into a much more primal state and say that the very alphabet itself was created around the pronunciation of these unknowable beings.
I like this.
So anytime you have the alphabet, it will give rise to their foul names.
I like it.
In which case, it doesn't matter that it's the magnets on the refrigerator. It doesn't matter if it's some stuff up on a kindergarten wall showing all the stuff. Eventually, when they get down and put and cycled, it will always come out to be their names. It had to be because it was designed to be.
I like that. Yeah.
And that is pretty terror-inspiring.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, the English alphabet does not contain all potential, ways to pronounce things. They're the glottal throat things that we just don't have in our alphabet.
Yep.
Why are they not a part of it? Because that's not how you pronounce the foul names of the beings that cannot be spoken.
Seems kind of mundane to say, well, actually...
Or you could go back even further and say that the reason that it comes out for any alphabet is because it was ingrained into our primordial DNA. Yeah. There was something so shocking that anything that arises that can speak will eventually be able to try, and couple together these things that cannot be.
All right. Well, I like that too. So there's a couple of different ways that could play out.
Depending on how you want to go about it. The rational explanation, of course, being, it's just random letters and there's only one repeated letter, so it's almost inevitable that you can do it. You could put Fnord in there if you want. But that's the fun thing about Fnord is whenever you read it, you never see it, and you forget about it immediately. It's just the word that causes discomfort, unquiet, and you never even heard me say it. It's that subconscious for you. So that's why I didn't go with that one. I had to go with Nyarlathotep. So, it's pretty gnarly, dude. But yeah, that was a nice little conspiracy spot. I found out that just gets you to think. It's like it seems bad, but logical reflection. But conspiracy theories aren't about logic. They're about crazy things.
Exactly. No, that was really cool. I want to remind people before we get too far. GotaCon coming up. GotaCon in. As in, I gotta go to this con. February 27th to March 1st, and you can sign up. Yeah, if you go to buy your ticket and everything, you can go to warhorn.net. To warhorn.net is their sort of registration portal. You go after you buy your ticket, and then you can register for events and sign up for Josh's fantastical D&D adventure.
So is it going to be 5th edition, 3rd edition?
3.5.
Okay,
and
classic.
The name of it is Storm Roads, so it's called Storm Roads. And I'm working on it now, so I'll have it ready.
So, spoiler alert, does the road actually emit thunder and lightning?
Not itself, no.
Oh, okay, so it's not literally a storm road. You're not journeying across I want to go on the Bifrost Bridge, but I took a detour and now I'm on the storm roads. Kind of like the back alleys of Asgard.
Yeah, I didn't want to go epic with it, the epic level. Hopefully it's got an epic
adventurously epic streak to it. Yes.
Yeah, it's not an epic level as in greater than 20th level. It's going to be probably 4th level, basically. But I'm
still powerful enough to journey on storm roads.
So I just want people to sign up, and hopefully I get enough players that I don't just sit there and just wait for the 2 hours to pass. Well, I guess no.
Don't worry. If I find you there all alone, I will play 4 people at once.
Okay, perfect. I'm looking for 6, but
I'm only one man. I'm already being 4 people. Come on, Josh.
Well, if I can't
tell you what.
4,
I'll
can't get 6.
I'll see what I can do about getting one of my brothers in, and maybe we'll be 3 people apiece.
Okay, all right.
Okay. There.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Good compromise.
Sign up with that. Okay. That was.
So yes, what aside from designing an epically felt adventure in 3.5, what have you been doing this week, Josh?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to bleep this next word because it is spelled differently. It's spelled Schitt.
Oh yes, the new show on CBC.
The new show is called Schitt's Creek. There's a reason I didn't bleep that is because it is literally
like the Germanic surname.
It has nothing to do with the other meaning of the word, even though it sounds exactly the same.
And it's designed to sound that way. Although I did notice that they did bleep it out on CBC Radio.
They bleep it out when they do commercials for it, yeah. They don't bleep it out when they talk about it.
Yes. For those of you who want a little extra something to listen to, as after Josh is done with this and you're done listening to our podcast, go hit the Q on CBC there. They did talk with Eugene Levy earlier on in the week.
Yeah.
And I do believe they did not bleep any of it, so you can listen to him talking about Schitt's Creek for how long was it? Like a 20-minute interview?
Yeah, but yeah. So after you finish listening to this, head on over to CBC.
It's Eugene Levy. Okay, maybe the guy hasn't made any big Oscar winners lately. He is a good person. He's amazingly entertaining, and he does reliably good comedy, which is not always easy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that I had watched an episode of that sort of in my.
I missed the pilot, but everybody I've seen, on the Facebook feeds and all that, and the reviews coming in, everyone's saying it's pretty good. What did you think, Josh?
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I really liked it. I liked every single character. Good. Because occasionally it's everybody but him. I hate any scene with him in there just because he's there. And I should say I liked every performance. The characters, I definitely like the characters are. It's funny because they're a bit they're a bit jerky, not jerky the right word. But
to be fair, a lot of the best characters are kind of jerky. Archie Bunker was not the nicest, happiest guy.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, you see humanity in every single one of the characters. You see, you can relate to them in a little way. Or I thought I could.
I heard the chemistry between all the actors and actresses was very solid, very good.
I really thought it was good. I thought it was well acted. I didn't I didn't watch a lot of it, so I feel like there's more to come because it's only the beginning of a show. But yeah, it's a new on CBC. I guess we're doing our own little ad for it. I didn't mean to do that, but it's just a show that I liked. Happened to watch this weekend. I enjoyed.
I'm kind of sad that I wasn't able to catch the pilot episode and all that. I meant to, but then I forgot to double check. When is it showing? What's the proper time zone? And it's like, oh, I missed it. I'm already hearing everyone saying it was great.
Well, I watched it on the website. I don't know how long, if they're going to put them all up on the CBC website.
The CBC website usually does keep them up for at least the season, I've been told.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes they, like what the network websites will do is they'll put up one episode.
Did you miss it? Here, catch last week's.
Yeah, and then they'll stop. Because actually that's what Comedy Network just recently did. Like, they're not putting up the new...
South Park stuff?
Not South Park. Yeah, Jon Stewart does The Daily Show, and...
Stephen Colbert does The Colbert Report.
Stephen Colbert does The Colbert Report, but the guy...
John Oliver?
No, the guy replacing Stephen Colbert is... I can't remember.
Not important to me right now, because he is not as close to my heart as Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, so, because, Stephen's going on to something else, and I can't...
he's going on to he's taken over The Tonight Show with David Letterman. It's going to be The Tonight Show with Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, one of those. Or The Late Show, or...
No, he's taken over Letterman's role.
Well, Letterman never did The Tonight Show.
Or whatever Letterman's calling it.
The Late Show.
Is it? It's been a while since I've seen it. Admittedly, I don't get a chance to watch a lot of late night TV.
I mean, they're pretty much all interchangeable, but
which is a little sadly true. But they each have their own unique flair and style. I always appreciated Letterman's quick wit. When there's someone on there who was like getting a little rowdy, no, let's not go to commercial and all that, he'd always get them to stop. He knew the right question just to like surgically pinpoint ask, just to get the person off their guard, and then cut to break. And I appreciate that, which is why I was so happy on hearing Stephen Colbert was taking over, because Stephen Colbert has got that same sort of wit, that same quickness to him, and I think that's going to serve well.
I am going to miss the character. Although I think have we talked about this before? I feel
like
we have,
character?
Yeah. His right wing kind of stupid kind of
highly charismatic, but
kind of truthiness guy. Yeah, I'm going to miss that. I hope that maybe somehow he can bring it back in a segment or something. I don't know.
That said, I think it will be nice to see the previous Stephen Colbert, the one who was on, the news show, where it was him as like the nerdy him, because like he really knows his Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind seeing him be able to express that part of him again on air.
Well, it's funny because, like, to talk more about Stephen Colbert, he actually did that, sort of seeped into the extreme right wing character, is that he kept that aspect of his own personality and added it to a person who probably wouldn't necessarily be that big of a reader, but for some reason
it was so much of who he is as a real person it seeped through even in the character.
Yeah.
And I would like to see it come through pure.
I'm sure it will. I bet it. I'm sure he's going to do pretty cool stuff.
Well, I mean,
Larry Wilmore is the name of the guy taking over from that in that slot.
Not Stephen, not Colbert. That's how I remember.
It just took me that long to remember. And
well, to be fair, he hasn't worked his way towards the hearts like Stephen Colbert has. Stephen Colbert's been there for a number of years.
He's been there less time.
A little less than a decade, I believe.
And yeah, they weren't putting it, like the Comedy Network wasn't putting his shows. Last time I checked, they weren't putting that show up on the website.
Not yet.
Maybe they will. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, that's how I got on that. Maybe because I don't have traditional cable. Like I just
you don't have my basic cable package. I'm sitting high and mighty.
I just use the websites, and most of the time it's fine. But I sort of have to kludge my way around different things, like use websites or I do use iTunes and Netflix, which gets me quite a bit of stuff. And now there's a new one. Speaking of advertisements, there's a new one called Crave coming out.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of advertisements for that. I don't know. I'll wait and see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I like my basic cable because right now it's the only one where I can watch the MeTV stuff, the Super Saturdays, where I get to watch the old movies done by Svengoolie. And I really do like the character Svengoolie. And maybe if I could find him somewhere else, I'd watch that way and consider maybe dropping cable, because he's right now the biggest reason for me to have cable TV. So like that block of Superman, old Superman, the black and white Superman, the craziness there, the Adam West Batman, Wonder Woman, Star Trek, Svengoolie doing for a 2-hour movie, and all together it's like a really nice thing, and I think it's worth, what little I wind up paying for it every month. I get a good deal because they really want to try and keep people on the cable packages.
Yeah, well, so that's what I did this week. I watched some TV. And I also played Don't Starve, but probably more than I probably should have, but yeah.
You don't want to admit how much?
Oh, well, actually, I mean, it probably wouldn't be that much. Probably 12 hours total this week.
That's not bad.
So, I mean,
That's not the binging you were doing the previous weeks.
Yeah, I've done worse. And that's probably more than I want to. And
yeah, you're talking to a guy that once spent 42 hours straight playing Civ.
Yeah, but that's sort of the definition of addictive. And I'm sure, like, as soon as I get over Don't Starve... Actually, I really want to get back to Minecraft. I need to... Because I'm missing it now.
Don't worry, I've got you covered for Minecraft.
Okay, so that was me. We should move on to...
I've had some interesting experiences in Minecraft this week for my big fiction-based thing. The one is that I keep encountering little blocks that have popped up. Like, when you throw a block and it does that little spinning thing on the ground?
Yeah.
I've encountering those that no one... I've not had. Like, every once in a while I'll turn around a corner and there'll be a little spinning cobblestone thing. And it's like, how did that get there? And I pop it up, it's cobblestone, it doesn't disappear, it's not like a phantom block sitting there. Sometimes it's cobblestone, sometimes it's sandstone. And it's just there, and there's no reason for it. I'm going to bed at decent hours, so it's not like I'm spawning Endermen, all random throughout the country.
Plus they don't, which really bothers me, but they don't drop when they're holding a block. If you kill them...
No, I'm not killing them.
But they don't drop it, which really always bugged me, and I hope they fix that. And Mojang, if you're listening, get on that dinner bone. Yeah,
get like one extra thing for them to drop, man, whatever they're holding. Yeah. Not that they really ever hold precious, squares or
yeah, that's true.
It's still something, man.
Although, like I had made my own mods and stuff, and I just turned off when I modified the Enderman. I just turned off that
pick things up.
Yeah, they pick everything, all blocks, because I thought that would be more fun. And I realized why. The reason they don't have that ability is because they could take a diamond block from you, and that would really piss off a user.
That was 9 diamonds.
And yeah, so I see why they don't do that. But for me, I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take that griefing. And
that's something maybe they should do on hard difficulty only.
Maybe something like that.
Griefing my Enderman.
Because you can already turn off. There's game rule no griefing or something like that / game rule.
Yes, I've seen that sort of thing in the MoonQuest series. They had to turn off because they kept leaving the door open and creepers kept wandering in.
Yeah,
it's like, ugh, you guys.
So there already is something kind of like that built into the game. But okay, so sorry.
No block stealing. Enderman.
Random. I should also now that you're talking about blocks, this is something that happens when you start to play with mods, and I had this when I first started playing with Millionaire, and I went to the Nether, and I was I went in the Nether, and just chickens and pigs and sheep just started appearing every few seconds in midair, just in one spot. And I figured it out eventually, was that that the coordinates for that place in the Nether were identical to the coordinates where there was a village, which had a farm spawner, so that they would
always spawn creatures here.
Yeah,
and it just bled through into the Nether, eh?
I think it checks too in an area around it, is there already chickens here? So if there's already chickens, it's don't spawn any more chickens. But in the Nether, the chickens spawn basically in the middle of the air, and they fall down.
But they don't die because they fall slowly.
Exactly.
But they do burn pretty quick, don't they?
And then I was like, why is my game so laggy? And I go around a corner, it's one frame, tick, 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 and then I come over the edge of a horizon of a little a platform, and then there's just this sea of chickens down in the
Please tell me you got screen captures.
I might have. It was a long time ago, so I might have even put up a video of it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a nice area to put down. Just down the hill, put some magma to flow down there, and just cleanse the world.
Yeah,
with
that
fire.
would have done it. I think I ended up What did I can't remember how I think I did kill them somehow, but
nothing purifies like fire.
Basically, my solution after that was not go back in the Nether, just play on the overworld.
Welcome to my sort of lifestyle.
So yes, this is what mods have in store for you. It's just random things just appear out of nowhere, and it's like, why did that?
Well, so the thing is I was looking at it for a while, and like not too far off, like out of sight, but still within like the the block ticking zone where things happen.
Right.
I have a node from Thaumcraft that's like a hungry node, and it sucks up blocks. And so I'm wondering, like, did it like miss? Did somehow the block just like get sucked up and fly too far, and this is like where it landed?
Possible, yeah.
But I haven't seen anybody else commenting on such a thing, so it might just be a quirk of my game world. But I did have a larger problem this week.
Okay.
Somebody jacked my ride. I have the little Archimedes ships, and I got my little Sky Dude, just two little balloons.
On multiplayer?
No, it's a single-player server.
Oh.
I'm the only entity that does anything like that.
Brian. That's what I'm telling you.
Between that and the blocks, I'm starting to wonder. I'm like checking the corners, man. It's just getting a little creepy. But I always put it down in the same sort of area, and it's very easy to see because this last week I got like a huge amount of colored clay, which I'll talk about in a minute because I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Okay, yeah.
But I put out like a nice little walkway. It's like a nice red stained clay strip. It looks very nice, very classy. And so I put like my white ship down on there, and then it's like, okay, I have to like upgrade my house. This is I'll just like a room full of boxes. I'll move everything over across the street. So I move across the street, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna get myself some more stained clay to make. Oh, well, no, wait, my ship's not here. Maybe it's on the. No, it's not on the other side. Oh, maybe I parked it on the inside of the courtyard. No, not inside the palace area. Not over by the temple. Okay, I'll go up on the rooftop of the high building and look around. I can't. Like, where did it go? It's completely missing. My current theory is that I've noticed when I get onto it, sometimes when I've been going like, I gotta go down low and land, and then I go off like a ledge, I'll dip down to where it says I should be. It apparently retains the information of like, what vertical level did you say you wanted to go down to? Even after I hop off, and then when I fly, it'll sit me down to that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there have been a few times on a slime island, I'm like, whoa, I'm falling. No, there we go, I'm not falling. Okay, I'm safe.
Yeah.
So my suspicion is that it kept that information when I saved the game, and then when I'm loading the game up the next day, hey, here's your Archimedes ship, it should be down here, and then the world generates, and so it's like stuck down like somewhere deep in the bowels of the earth right now. And
Might still be there.
It is, but I have no plan. This is one of the few places I've designed where I have no plans of creating like an underground network of caves or whatever. So it's lost. I had to snag some orange wool from the nearby temple, which is okay because I'm replacing the wool with blocks of coal, which is really rock and evil looking.
Oh yeah, the black.
Yeah, just a real good contrast in color. So I got a few extra blocks of that, but it's just like I lost my ride. That was my first vehicle in this world. I did everything. I raided so many towns and temples with that. Now I'm missing it.
Yeah, well, you can build it again, right?
Effectively, yeah, and it's just all it is like a control area for like steering, and then 2 balloons I'm sitting on. That's all it is. I got a decent amount. I got a full stack of string for from the spider stuff, so I have no worries about that. And I've got like still 17 more blocks of wool I can turn into more air balloons, so I'm not hurting.
Well, you should do a whole fleet of them then.
I was thinking about making a slightly bigger one that I could put a lot of chests onto, so that when I go bring stuff back from my mining site, I can really load myself down. But I don't need that much resources all at once. But I did get a chance to dig into the clay area with the Mesa biome stuff.
That's fun. Yeah.
I really like it. The blocks are just such a nice, solid, continuous color, no speckle type real pattern going on. They're very, very classy, basic. And from what I've figured out from digging, I took a mesa and I dug the one butt end off the mesa right down to level 63 and lower. There doesn't appear to be anything for a cave network. There's nothing like when you try digging, doing your own quarry, and you get down, it's like, cave here, cave there, cave here, cave there. Dang it! I just want to dig into the dirt here. What's going on? Nothing like that in there. So if you're ever planning on like, where am I going to build my, awesome, fortress, citadel, solitary nature area, consider the mesa areas, like the mesa plateaus. They got those mesa ones where it's just like the really tall, like effectively natural towers of the stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
And with the different colored levels and all that, you could build in, and you won't need to memorize exactly. Okay, which room was this in? Because it's in room white, red, yellow, and that's why the stripes on the area to help you remember which area you should be going up and down to.
Okay. Yeah.
That said, I have been changing my eating patterns because of it. Like the standard hardened clay is the same color as like chocolate fudge. So I was like, well, I got a little bit of Toblerone in the other room. Maybe I'll pause and maybe I'll just start doing some digging on that Toblerone block there.
Interesting. Yeah.
The yellow stained clay is like just a nice mustard yellow color. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The orange clay is like an American cheese thing. And there's one area on the thing where I was digging where it was orange, then yellow, then double red, and then stained brown. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, all I see is a cheeseburger. I could have just carved out a cheeseburger from the natural earth itself. Just make sure it's rounded and tapered around at the edges, and it would have been almost perfect. I'm like, that's insane. I look at it, and it's like, okay, where am I? I'm going to be digging down. Let's see. That's right. I'm at the ketchup layer right now. So, that said, I am really enjoying it, and the natural staining of the clays. I have cactuses galore because I'm living in the desert, right? I got a little cactus farm, so I'm not hurting. I got all that cactus green dye, and I'm really liking that color green for the blocks.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about now I'm going to take all the stuff I'm doing for my large area for my large zone of farming. Instead of spreading everything out, I do vertical farming. I could design everything up, and I could give it nice white, white horizontal layers, and then green striped accents. And I'm looking at it, this is magnificent. I'm loving it. So I'm really enjoying it because you get the nice colorful clays on the white background of a desert, and this is my blank canvas to paint upon. My goodness.
Yeah, that's cool.
That said, the black stained clay doesn't really look black. It's just a really dark brown.
Yeah, that's true.
Brown like my hair dark, and it's just not black, which is a bit of a shame, because I wanted a really dark, sooty type building for me to have my smeltery and all my forging work stuff in there.
Yeah, well, you'd probably have to use something like coal for that, or obsidian for that matter.
I'm not at the point where I can get that much obsidian just on willy-nilly. I'm still working with Stone Age technology, literally Stone Age, Although I'm using the Tinker's tool, so I got a lot of good stuff to use when I need it. Other than that, just continuing on exploring the depths of the various mods I've installed, and I think I found a way to get all the animals I want for the standard ones without having to ship them 3 days across the desert as I walk backwards slowly, hoping I don't fall into, a lava pit or, bump into some cactus or hit that hungry node and have it suck me up and eat me. So, the paleontology mod I've got allows me to get, embryos. Get meat from a creature, combine it up, bulk it up, and hey, I've got cow embryos.
Oh yeah, sure.
So my plan is to go north to where there's actual green pastures. Get the animals, get enough eggs so I can almost guarantee myself at least one chicken.
Yeah.
And then get meat from every other basic animal. I got the Mo Creatures one, but I don't need that stuff. The paleontology doesn't work with that.
Okay.
Come back, get my chickens. Use the meat, process it through with the paleontology mod until I got my embryos, and then force my chickens to lay cow, pig, and sheep embryos until they have cow babies and all that stuff. And then, bam, I got all the animals I need without having to lure each of them independently across a 3-day desert trek. Which is kind of monstrous and kind of weird, but it's ooh boy, think of the time and efficiency and savings. Hooray!
Yeah.
So, once again, I find myself being a weird, crazy monster in Minecraft, but this time I'm not hurting the people who are living in the village. I've got a rather nice area set up for them, really good. I'm making sure they can't even fall off the side of the staircases I'm building.
Good. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm building rooms that are actually rooms for them this time. There's going to be a bed, and there's going to be like a chest, and you know what? I've got a decent number of painting stuff from the archaeology stuff, so I can put up like some like wall tablets and make it look all nice. They'll probably never actually go into their bedrooms, but at least it's there. It'll look functional, look nice. So hooray! I'm being a good person to people, not to animals. I'm blaspheming against like God horribly on that end, but I'm doing good with the other people. So is that like a lesser evil for me this time? Am I slowly decreasing my Minecraft evilness?
Sure.
Alright.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a thing. Oh, and I did find a way to make use of those seeds I was mentioning last time. I got all these seeds. What do I do with my darn seeds? Yeah, it turns out in the Thaumcraft stuff, you can like make a deconstruction table, and any item, can be broken down to one of its core little aspects, and oh boy, a point for research. So now my entire like vertical farming tower is just a like potential resource point for me. It's like, oh boy, carrots can get me a point of order. I really got to put like a huge stack of carrots in there and just like watch as the points come up. Like when they do come, oh boy, okay, now I can do this, now I can do that. And I've really made some nice progress because I had the points to put my research into for that. So hooray! I found a garbage, compactor that does something useful for me. Whee!
Huh, yeah.
So I'm happy with that. I'm quite happy. Other than that, I'm kind of alarmed at the amount of snakes I'm finding. That's the only creature from Mo Creatures I've encountered right now.
Oh, okay. But you're in the desert, so...
There's no ostriches, there's no scorpions, just lots of snakes. I've got over a dozen, eggs for most of the snakes I encounter. Nothing on the wiki says they're supposed to be encountered in the desert or like a desert mesa, but I'm like flying on my little new Skydew and I'm looking down there. It's like there's got to be 24 of them, and they keep burning up in the lava pit just outside of town. It's like I'll look over there. It's like, is that on fire still or on fire again there? And apparently what they do is they'll wander too close to the cactus and they'll bump off of the cactus and fall into the lava thing, and then they'll start burning up in that. And it's like, are they killing themselves just because out of boredom? Out of what? Just is it bad AI? Crazy stuff. But that's been my little fictional world this week. Other than that, just keeping on with my regular games.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But I did see a really good movie last night.
Okay.
Starred a man named Rondo, who had acromegaly. The whole thing that makes your body proportions continue to grow even after proper maturity, but never at the right rate. So it's not like, oh boy, you're just huge.
Okay, so acromegaly sort of makes you look a bit deformed.
What's the thing is it causes chemical things to keep going, like puberty to keep going. But it doesn't affect all the tissues the same way, the same rate.
Is this what the Elephant Man had?
It is suspected. It's still not 100% certain as to what exactly he had.
He might have had multiple conditions, including...
Yes, from what I've seen on the skeleton, I would bet no one condition did everything. Andre the Giant had it, but because Andre the Giant had it since birth, it was a little bit easier for him and, advances in medicine. Because poor Rondo here, he was back in, 1940s sort of stuff.
Is that his first name or his last name?
His first name.
Okay.
I just like calling him Rondo because it's a really nice, almost unique name. I mean, sure, there's that basketball guy who's got it for his surname, but Rondo, yeah. That's because how he was known in Hollywood at the time when he was doing the movies, he was called the Monster Without Makeup, which is really cruel, dude. Really freaking cruel. Hollywood, once again, you disappoint me with your callousness. Your physical beauty is marred by your real ugly personality.
There's got to be some actors out there. I can't think of them off the top of my head that are. Steve Buscemi is kind of weird looking, I guess.
He has been connected with the fish appearance by a few people before. I think that's a little rude too, by the way.
Yeah, but, maybe it was rude of me to bring him up in the first place.
Well, they're not actors known for their beauty. They're not Johnny Depp. They're not, like a Brad Pitt sort of, why am I here, because I'm physically so beautiful, everyone wants to see me. These are people with faces with character. These are people that have personality that comes through. And, like this Rondo guy played the Creeper in the movie The House of Horrors, which was a sequel to a Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes thing, and they apparently liked the character so much that they put him on for 2 more movies.
Was he the main character then, the Creeper?
The Cree was the villain in the Sherlock Holmes one,
Okay.
who was supposed to have died. Yeah, he fell in the river and drowned. No, in the House of Horrors, he's found by an artist who's about to commit suicide, and then sees, oh my goodness, look at this face. I have got to make a sculpture of this face. They must be immortalized for eternity. Long story short, it's not. It gets smashed in the end, which is a shame because it's a really good, like clay thing when it's done. But whatever. It's the movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it got me thinking, because like Sven Gulli, who was the host sort of thing, showed, like, who is Rondo? What was he like? And he was like, he was a pretty handsome man at the age of like 21. He must have been quite a charmer with the ladies. Then he, enlisted with the army, and during one event in the army, he got exposed to gases, which, spurred the acromegaly to happen.
Okay. Sounds like almost like a superhero origin story.
Yeah, kinda, yes.
Probably the closest you're going to get, because most of the case they just die. But
congratulations, you've got cancer.
At least in this case, the result was like a career in Hollywood.
Well, that's the thing. It didn't start as a career in Hollywood. Okay. It started with loss of his job afterwards, because he was scaring, people in his, the commerce-related stuff. Okay. He was scaring customers with his appearance, and his wife left him.
He worked at the House of Commerce? The Chamber of Commerce, Chamber, yeah.
It doesn't matter, because he wound up having to get let go because he was scaring the customers with his appearance.
Yeah.
Because people were that horrible back then. Just like, oh no, I don't want to be served by this man. He's too ugly. It's like, dude, get over yourself. You ain't no catch either. Come on. Yeah. So he wound up getting like a job, writing in the newspaper sort of stuff.
Okay.
Where you don't have to see the face every day.
He should have done podcasting. No, he's a little early for that.
He was a few decades ahead of his time in that respect, I suppose, then. But he did find a lady who loved him. And she encouraged him to go out and do stuff, like with his stuff. Not just, write up the reports, and do this. Actually go out there and, get the information. And so, like, during one of the first, talkies, ever done in Florida, which is where he was living at the time, he goes in, hey, I want to talk to you about this film. The producer takes one look at him and goes, you got to be in this. You got to be in my movies. I need you in my movies. My goodness, that's a face with character. And so he wound up getting his first role as just like a barber cutting somebody's hair. Didn't say anything. He's just there with the face and the body and the build and all that, just cutting somebody's hair. But that got him his first thing for the Screen Actors Guild, so he gets him accredited. If you've ever seen The Rocketeer, they actually had a guy, in makeup to look like Rondo, to get that classic sort of style.
Oh yeah, one of the Nazis, right?
Well, one of the mooks, sort of thing. Okay. One of the goons that was there. I don't know if he was really Nazi or just getting paid to beat people up.
Yeah, I think I remember that guy. Yeah, and he gets knocked off the blimp or whatever.
They all die eventually. Yeah, I think he gets blimped.
Blown up or something.
He gets de-blimped, we'll say. And which is usually a lethal condition. Which is a little ironic because you had a man in heavy prosthetics playing the monster without makeup. Which is a little weird. Actually, I like using his name Rondo because they have Rondo Awards yearly. Which is for, good special effects, and makeup. And they've got like a little image of what the statue of him looked like for in House of Horrors, just kind of reduced down to something you could hold in one hand, as opposed to something about the size of your torso.
And they give it to the artist, the makeup artist,
yes,
or the prosthetic artist.
They give it to the technical crews. It's not going to actors and all that stuff. It's for the people that make.
You really wore that face, kid. Although that's something.
That's what the Oscar stuff, and the big awards go to. True. This is a technical award for the people that really did good, that wind up getting glossed over because commercials are going on right now. So you don't hear that award. But yeah, they're called the Rondos, just because of the like him and his. But I mean, I was seeing him. It's like, wow, this guy's got like a Danny Trejo sort of face. This guy's got a face with character here. And then I heard about his horrible thing. And when you have acromegaly, you have physical conditions, and he wound up dying before his last two movies. The House of Horrors was released posthumously for him, in addition to the third part of his trilogy of movies for the Creeper. And that's a little sad because it's like, oh, he didn't get to see how well people liked him in that role. On the other hand, he was kind of like a bad guy, like he kills a lady, and then like his friend is like, oh, so and so died not too far from here. I wonder why she died. Why did she have to die? And his answer, as he's just eating breakfast, is because she screamed. It's like, whoa, that is really, really harsh, man. But, if he pulled off the role pretty well. So it's like, well, that's kind of a guy you don't want to mess with. Why did she have to have her spine snapped? Because she screamed. It's like, whoa.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the man, Rondo, he got in with these parts, and he was here and there. But he was called the monster without makeup. He was, his first wife left him because he just stopped being so handsome. This is a man that's had a heck of a lot, of stuff dumped on him, and he was still wound up, coming out, smelling like roses proverbially, right? And so it got me thinking, it's like in a lot of movies, you've got, the brute. The big strong, not all that handsome, but the big strong guy. You've got to, so you got the movies. You see it played an awful lot in D&D. I mean, the half orc is kind of like the epitome of that sort of thing. Not known for their looks, but boy, are they big and tough.
Yeah.
And then you've got people writing these characters, like in novels. Like, okay, well, I want this guy to not just be some generic guy, like what's going on. And like the history of him really speaks to me as being somewhat different. He's a big man. He's not exactly the best looking. I wouldn't call him ugly, honestly. His face had enough character you'd remember it.
Okay, yeah.
I would not shy away from serving this man at my place of work. I would gladly greet him if he was a regular customer. A man with a face like that is a man who's got character, a man who's got like a decent level of integrity about him, I'm willing to believe.
Sure. Okay.
Well, when you look like that and people notice you because you look like that, then you have to live with that, and that builds character. That's how life goes. Whether it's good character or bad character, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I
it's
see.
Just character.
Okay. I thought when you were going somewhere with that, I thought you were going with good character. But if you say, it adds personality, okay, personality.
Well, you have to live with that sort of thing. You can't just blend into the background because, hey, you are 6.5 feet tall, and you've got, like in the movie, they describe him as the perfect Neanderthal.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was the words several people used to describe him, like the perfect Neanderthal. It's like, okay, yeah, that works kind of for the creeper and his stuff, but it's like kind of cruel to call him that, because I mean, why is Rondo got that role? Because that's how he looks. He looks like the perfect Neanderthal, apparently. So it's kind of harsh. So I'm thinking, just seeing this loss, this tragedy, this like a unloved nature for some part of history works as a great background for like the brute. To give them added depth.
Right, so if you're going to come up with a character, or if you wanted to play a character in a D&D game...
That's not just a stock, oh yeah, I'm the half-orc fighter. Like what's up with that? I don't know, I'm just a half-orc fighter, man. I'm ugly and I hit things. That's what I do. It's like, give it some more personality. Give it some background. Work with that. Why does he adventure with these people? Because they don't see him for the ugly half-orc. They see him as who he is. And he goes around there because he knows whatever he does isn't being seen as like, oh yeah, that's what a half-orc does, right? Smash things up. No. He's there because he's with people who see him for who he truly is. They look past the I guess for orcs, they got those little tusks thing going up there most of the time, past the brutish face. They see him for who he really is inside. If he happens to be a brute that way, well, so be it. They see him for the true brute, not the superficial brute. If he happens to have, because you can do this in 5th edition, if you want him to be like the soul of a poet and a scholar, well, everyone else sees him as just an ugly half-orc, but his friends see him for who he truly is, and the smart within.
Yeah, and well, you read about this in sort of gritty fantasy, or the fantasy story, is that if that guy walks into a bar and somebody wants to start a fight and look tough, they'll go after him. So...
Exactly,
sort of
and that's
trouble finds you if you're that big.
That's one of the things I was talking about earlier. Is when you have a face like that in real life, you cannot just blend off into the background. You have to be that person all the time. It's not a role you can pick up and leave. Like, oh, I can wear this sort of clothes, and now look at me, I'm a preppy person. Haha, I'm wearing my hair this way, and I've got like the preppy sort of clothes on. I've got my cardigan draped over my shoulders and all that weird, crazy look that I don't believe ever really looked good unless you had trust fund money.
Yeah, if you have money, anything looks good.
Well, if you might think things look good, people will, take your money to say, yeah, you look great. Yeah. But you can change your look. You can get like a biker guy. You can get him to comb his beard up, sort of thing, nice. Put the hat up, to hide the hair. You can get him into a decent a 3-piece suit, and he'll look pretty darn different.
Yeah.
But Rondo looked like Rondo all the time. It's not something he can put on, take off. It's not clothes. It's not a hat. It's him all the time, and that builds character. And that's a very interesting to think about. Is like if you're playing a low charisma sort of guy, it's like how does that affect you? How does that change how you see things?
Well,
think about that.
Is it
stuff.
just low charisma? Because I mean, at some point in one edition of D&D, I can't remember, but they start saying that, or maybe it's right from the beginning, but they start saying that charisma isn't just looks; it's also your ability to sort of command the room. And
yes, back in 2.5 with the player's option stuff, where they were able to split all the stats into 2 separate stats. They explain stuff like Julius Caesar was not a handsome man. Any image of him will show that kind of old, kind of bald, kind of got the warts sort of thing, warts and all. But you know what? He commanded a nation. How did he do that? Well, it was technically a high charisma score. Doesn't always default to looks. You can have like someone who's very, very beautiful, like the elven, unhuman sort of level of beauty. But if you don't have the charisma score to pull it off, you're just like that vacuous blonde. That's all you are. You can't command. You have a hard time commanding your horse. That's how it goes.
That'd be a fun character to play. I think people play that sometimes. The pretty boy,
bard.
the pretty boy or the pretty girl who's like.
Whatever. That's right. I'm a valley elf.
Valley elf. Yeah,
or low elf, as the other elves call that one.
So I remember in D&D, like one of the neat things about D&D is that you can make these weird choices of like, I'm going to be that big guy, or I'm going to be a little guy, or I'm going to be somewhere in between.
I'm going to be the smallest halfling possible.
And I remember listening to like Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum, and he was saying, I don't know, somebody was I think it was Kevin Pollack on his podcast, so I'm stealing from other podcasts, but
you're referencing other podcasts. That makes us an intellectual podcast.
Andy Serkis was telling Kevin Pollack on his show that he was very excited about the new era of film because he's one of the first actors who's sort of divorced from playing just your own body type, because he can play, somebody could play a dragon. It might have been Benedict Cumberbatch, actually.
Yeah, he was
the dragon. But I think this was Andy Serkis. For some reason, he was making this point.
He would take a very rare person to play Gollum physically.
Yeah.
He's like, you'd have to do a heck of an exhaustive casting search to find somebody that meets Gollum's physical nature. So he was saying that basically film is just now starting to open up. I'm really digging the potential myself. I would love to see an entire world made just computer generated with that level of detail, and just have anybody be that. I mean, the man who played Saruman, all that.
Christopher Lee?
Yes, indeed. He wanted to play Gandalf. But the role of Gandalf required a bit more of a physical, exertion than he's able to do at this age. If it had happened like a decade earlier, where they were doing everything, he might have been able to do it with his, stats then, physical presence and all that.
Right.
But he just doesn't have the stamina anymore to do that sort of exhausting role. But if all he has to do is be the voice and act the person, Christopher Lee could be a bronze colossus astride, the earth, and crushing all beneath him. And trust me, I've heard him sing some death metal, deep stuff. The guy can pull off the voice, and if that's all you need to do, that means it's not like, I think I'm going to have to retire. I just can't do the physical role. It's like, okay, no, here, you sit down. We got a nice padded seat for you. You give the lines, if you want, we can get you some tea and all that in between. We don't have to, we got all day, man. We rented this whole, booth out for the day. We don't have to worry about getting done.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what they call them, like the little booth studios. It's not that big.
For voice acting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, you don't have to worry about a 16-hour work schedule. You got to be up and ready by 5 o'clock. You got to be spend 2 hours in the costume, department.
This has always been the case with animation.
But animation is usually seen as a more simplistic thing. It doesn't have the visual, acuity of reality.
Yeah.
And that's why, for the longest time, it's like, well, you really want to get some, chutzpah for your movie and all that and get the real gravitas. Well, it's got to be a live-action movie.
Sure.
But now we're hitting a spot where the level of detail of the CGI stuff is getting so good and so decently detailed that you don't need it to be. You could have an entire movie done CGI and still have the level of detail required to equal, what a human eye can see.
Yeah. And so almost any this is something we've had in D&D for a long time, is that you can take on, like, you're not limited by your body type, you're not limited by anything in real life.
The scrawny 13-year-old boy can be a 6.5-foot tall brick wall of a monster.
Yeah, you can do that. And so you can step into that role of the brute.
You can explore stuff that's physically not possible for you to be as for role. That's one of the big powers of D&D online gaming, especially with the online thing. That's
well,
right.
that's your video games. You can do that too. Yeah.
Some more than others.
Yeah. And okay, so this, like, which are we talking about? Are we talking about a person who just are you making the argument that merely looking like a brute sort of forces you in a certain direction? Because
I notice it's not something a lot of people consider when they're making their characters. They're like, oh yeah, sorry, charisma was my dump stat, whatever. I guess I'm just not that persuasive. But you can look at it as as a way of saying, like, how does that shape who I am, what I do?
But you could be like a 6'5" to 300-pound half-orc wizard.
Yeah, you can do that. You got the stats for it. You can pull that off, man.
Or Yeah.
Yeah, you can really rock that look.
And of course in D&D you can be the 3-foot tall, 25-pound halfling barbarian with an axe bigger than himself or herself.
If they got the stats to wield the darn thing, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very interesting though, because like as you said about maybe potentially playing like the high charisma, but not being able to, or a high physical comeliness but low actual charisma stat sort of thing.
Yeah.
Would be the low elf, as I call them, the valley elf. Like how does that change your history where you've got like I am physically gorgeous, but like once I open my mouth, everyone realizes just how stupid and inane I am. I'm just so dang annoying. No one wants to listen to me, sort of thing, because my charisma stat's so low. No one's going to take anything I say seriously, because like, whoa, dude, I'm totally spaced out all the time. So like it's something to consider. Take all the stats and see how they play against each other. Because I'm looking at this poor guy, this poor Rondo. He's like, oh, like they keep calling him the monster without makeup, the creeper, the horrible thing, the perfect Cro-Magnon, the perfect Neanderthal. It's like, ugh. It's like you hope you have a real nice life to help keep your self-esteem up after all those names get tossed around.
Yeah, well, and I think part of that is it's an extension of the, the Barnum and Bailey circus, and they used to have like freak shows that would tour the country. This happened
the bearded lady
up until the 30s, probably 40s, 50s.
They still do that sort of stuff. Jim Rose.
Okay.
And his stuff, they do touring stuff. They're not so much freaks in the deformed sense these days, but more freaks in like I can drive a large nail up my nostrils.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different sort of thing. But if a person wants to go on and like I'm a little deformed, I'm going to put on some extra makeup, I'm going to be truly scary, I'm going to be a flyboy, where I'm half fly, whatever. They can do that,
Yeah, so there is sort of a precedent. There's sort of a history in America, probably some in Canada, but I'm
Europe
not
as well,
as aware of it. But there's a history of sort of exploiting weird body shapes or just weird humans and they earn money, they earn a living. I guess it's in some cases it's not a huge money. It's little.
Hey, Rondo could have kept on, writing little stories in the newspaper for the rest of his life and being content.
Mm-hmm.
His second wife, encouraged him. Was like, well, go out and go do this stuff. Don't hide behind, the newspaper. It's like, oh, they want you for that. Go do that. It'll be good for you. You get a chance to, to see what you can really do rather than hide yourself.
So if you were given something like that, that seems like a very strange choice to have to make. It's just suddenly like, oh, now I have this extra person sort of attached to me, like who is me, but I have this sort of other person. Like I always, I theoretically, like I am a character. I see myself as, oh, I'm a columnist, or I am this or that, and I just I buy groceries and stuff. And then all of a sudden you have this other thing thrust on you. It's like, no, you
are the creeper.
Gift. And this doesn't really belong to you because, it belongs to America now. You now belong to, or the world or whatever.
Well, the thing is I look at them and I don't see that as being ugly. It's a very, very profound face. It's very distinctive.
Mm-hmm.
But like maybe the reason why I don't see him as ugly, whereas they were calling him a monster without makeup, is because he did get his face out there. He became famous as this, like the Creeper and all that stuff. I mean, they used a somewhat similar style to a creature. They called the Creeper on the old Scooby-Doo stuff with the original. I think it was one of the original seasons too, in the early 70s, where they had the Creeper, and it looked pretty close. Not enough for anybody to say sue for likeness rights, but it was there. And so because, he got his face out there, says, look at me, this is who I am. I'm not ugly, this is just a face, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. That, like, by today's standards, like, like, whatever. He's the guy that helped change the thoughts of people.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, I don't know of any, like, super famous people who are famous for looking...
Ron Perlman?
Like, well, I guess, yeah.
Danny Trejo. Machete. They're not exactly known for good looks, but they do have a face that makes you take notice.
A memorable face? Okay, sure, yeah.
And that's the thing is, I mean, you can look over and say, oh, he's not really that good of a looker, but you know what? He can play the role. He can do the stuff. He can just... There are people that no matter how they present themselves, they're only ever seen as the person. Without a lot of makeup, Tom Cruise is always Tom Cruise.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say Johnny Depp, but Johnny Depp's really good at the makeup. Sometimes you have to look twice before you see Johnny Depp every time you're looking at the character. But once you see Johnny Depp in that character, all you're seeing is Johnny Depp.
Yeah, that's true. Hollywood actually has this thing where, and it's perfectly reasonable, but there are actors, and like is a typical actor response, it's not as good to be in a movie where you have like super heavy makeup, and people will... Like, I'm trying to think of a recent
You do want to
example.
get yourself to be somewhat noticeable.
But I guess the dwarves in the Lord of the Rings might be, or the dwarves in, not Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit. Some of them are, you don't recognize the actors when,
Might be for the best. Sometimes it's rather hard. I mean, Luke Skywalker, was not any prosthetically different from, Mark Hamill, and that really did hurt his career afterwards. Whereas if he had looked different, a little different, he probably could have gotten more, other work a little easier, because people wouldn't say, it's like, well, I can't take you for this role. You're good, but you're Luke Skywalker. We don't need Luke Skywalker for this role. So,
okay,
in which case, prosthetics and changing up his look, maybe putting a scar on there or something else, and would have made him look just different enough. He could be Mark Hamill, and he wouldn't have to, like, I can't get a role. Everyone sees only Luke Skywalker. And mind you, it worked out for the best, because he did manage to, get in the role as, doing the voice work for the Joker on the Batman stuff. And oh my goodness, did he rock that role?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, and that laughter. I don't think the laughter would have happened without the frustration he had throughout all this stuff.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
When he's laughing, you can hear, like, there is some crazy and there's some pain sitting in there. That's not just, I'm really good at faking it. There is something deeply cathartic about the laughter coming out.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing whenever I hear the Joker laugh that way. So, yeah. So, because of that, he wound up, getting the extra, in which case, because of his face, not ugly or anything like that, but because of the face that's so noticeable and was only Luke Skywalker for so many people for so long, he got the added personality that allowed him to get the depth to be the crazy Joker laugh that rings in my head sometimes still. I gotta say, Cesar Romero, when he laughs, and my daughter will mimic his laughter, because that's what she does, and it's absolutely adorable. But when she mimics the laughter and he laughs, it's not the same laughter that haunts in my ears. It's the giggling of like a clown. It's the giggling of like somebody, playing the role who has to laugh. When Mark Hamill's Joker laughs, there's something deep and resounding in there because of the character he's built up. Because even though he's not ugly, he still has such a recognizable face, it was very hard for him to be anything but that one person. How about one person that people saw, the role rather than the person?
How about Groot? What do you think about this character in Guardians of the Galaxy?
I loved Groot. Groot was awesome. And voiced by Vin Diesel.
Yeah, and that's, I was going to say, Vin Diesel's
a very distinctive voice.
He's both distinctive voice, and he's also got a distinctive body. He's very, like, built-up guy. He's a very strong man.
Dude is ripped in tone.
and he's, I guess he's handsome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'll say handsome. I'm secure enough in my masculinity. I'm looking at it. The voice helps, of course.
Well, I don't think he's he's not the best looking guy in Hollywood, but I mean he's Hollywood ugly, not Hollywood. Yeah, you know that term, right?
Yeah, Hollywood ugly, where it's not really ugly at all.
Yeah.
No. He flashes a good smile. I'm pretty certain he could swoon a few hearts.
Yeah, and he is a D&D player also.
Right.
And we know that about Vin Diesel. But also, like, this Groot character, I mean, I guess it doesn't take, like, he just says the one line a bunch of times.
But he says it different ways, which is why I always thought it must have been a very interesting role for him, and I would like to hear how much he had to prepare for different inflections, how to work it.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because, I mean, he has to say different things and make it mean different things by saying the same line.
Yeah, but it also has something to do with the way the other characters react and everything like that. But yes,
it's more believable when it's like, I am Groot, as opposed to saying the same thing every time. It's like when he says it, like, in the right way, it sounds angry.
Yeah. But the point I wanted to make about that character is also, he sort of can be seen as the muscle, because that's a very, like, physical character. And it's funny that the physical actor is also being drawn on to play a physical character, even when he has nothing to do with I don't think he put on the little white balls for...
No, he didn't do any of the motion capture at all.
Motion capture?
No.
Yeah, so you have a physical actor who's being drawn on for a physical role, even though he's not doing that.
It might have something to do with first-hand experience. Like, if you want to be like, yeah, and he sounds like this, where he's like kind of hulking over doing this, he wants to sound kind of angry, or I'm going to get ready to rip somebody in half. Say, I am Groot, like I'm going to rip you in half. And that sort of thing, Vin Diesel's been in those roles where it's like, I'm really gonna flatten you. I'm gonna do this thing here. It's not like, say, Sir Ian McKellen. When was the last time Sir Ian McKellen was in a role where it's like, I'm gonna rip you in half, buddy?
I don't know.
Well, maybe Magneto, but that was kind of like a, I've got mutant powers sort of thing going on there.
I'm trying to think, like characters you couldn't have, like you couldn't have John Lovitz, like
I am Groot.
Acting. There are people with voices that don't necessarily, but
that do match up to decent archetypes. Like, for instance, if I could change one thing about Guardians of the Galaxy, I would have had Jason Alexander do the voice of Rocket Raccoon, simply because I found him to be such a wonderfully abrasive but small character as Duckman. In the animated series cartoon Duckman. Made it 4 seasons. Find it, but be careful. There's a lot of stuff that really is just like insulting. I mean, heck, Duckman's catchphrase was, "What the hell are you staring at?" And that sounds like something Rocket Raccoon would say. So in which case, maybe it's kind of like a lateral character move for him. Don't get me wrong. I think Rocket Raccoon's voice was wonderful, but I think Jason Alexander would have made it a little extra special for me.
I think that would have been a cool choice. But yeah, I was going to say, like, I think part of what it is it's just that actors sort of build a brand, and that's something that sort of theater goers kind of expect. Not all actors. Some voice actors do very good at making sure they don't have a specific brand. Well, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. I like that as a professional thing.
Let's see. I think one of the biggest voice actors right now is Tara Strong, and just browsing quickly mentally the amount of different roles she's done, there's a lot of variety. She hasn't been just this one person every time.
Yeah.
Sometimes she's not even a human. I mean, currently she's doing a voice of a pony. So she did the voice of Raven in the Teen Titans stuff. But you can also catch her doing the voice of the 10-year-old boy Timmy Turner on the Odd Parents sort of thing. That's a decent number of variety in how things go. One actor, and that's not even, I think she's a great actor, voice actor, but she's not the greatest voice actor. Billy West. He's done all sorts of stuff, and I mean, he's seen right now as like the modern day equivalency to Mel Blanc, the man of 1,000 voices.
Yeah, well, Billy West is funny. Like, he always plays funny characters.
Well, he's done Philip J. Fry from Futurama. Yeah. He's done Stimpy the Cat from Ren and Stimpy. Geeker and Project Geeker, for those of you who watched it for that one season in 1997. It was the highest rated cartoon of its year, but it got dumped in exchange for infotainment stuff. So,
but now, here's something. Do big people always have a deep voice too? I guess that's sort of because longer vocal cords
sort of thing
it would be associated with a larger
that's the thing
person.
is I was just thinking I was going to mention Brad Garrett. Most people
he's
know him.
He's a tall guy.
He's a big guy. Watch, Everyone Loves Raymond. He's like the larger brother. But on Project Geeker, he played Noah, an intelligent dinosaur. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, well, why did they choose him? Well, say because he's got the deep bass voice to play off a large theropod that weighs, I'm willing to bet, somewhat around a ton for weight. He's got the mass equivalent to a small car. And that's God. You couldn't have a high-pitched voice thing really pull that off, unless you were going to try and mimic like a Mike Tyson sort of thing, who is I think one of the most well-known guys to be the the big bruiser type, but still have the higher speaking voice.
Is he a tall guy, Mike Tyson? Is he a big guy?
Well, he's not as big as he used to be. So
right? So he must be a big guy.
He's not as big as he used to be. He's not in the fighting form he once was, but. He's found peace, thankfully. I think we should all be happy that he's found some.
Has he?
He's found he's his center. The thing that's calming him these days is raising his pigeons. Right? Yeah.
Okay.
And pigeons are his big calming thing right now. That's what's getting his center in on a karmic sense.
Is that for making choices in playing a D&D character? Is that
if you can't play the deep voice, if you can't be that sort of thing, then
regular.
Maybe
that's the other thing. Most people can sort of range their voice. They can raise their voice up a little bit higher and be like, oh God.
When I'm talking to my daughter most of the time, I will try and use a higher pitched voice, something happier, sweeter, and all that. But when she needs to go to sleep, I use my father voice. It goes down, it goes short, it goes much easier.
That's it. You should be a father in some movie, because now that you've had experience with it.
But most of the time when I'm speaking to my daughter, I'm up like this, I'm high. But when time comes, Zoe, lay down, go to sleep. Short, quick sentences with a deeper bass inflection, and she understands quickly, and she will stop. She'll be on the bed, kind of walking around, playing in the dark sort of thing. Nope, boof, down. She's dancing. She understands the tone and the inflection already from that point.
The problem with making your entire character have a higher or lower voice is that character in turn has his own moods, so he'll go even higher or lower as the case may be, and you might simply not be able to do that, or you might break into falsetto or something. Or
okay, my guy's really happy, so if you guys don't mind, but I got the helium balloon here. I paid extra money for this, so I better get some experience points off of this here. Just start sucking in the helium to get to your high-pitched little halfling voice going.
Yeah. And in the meantime, he's still this big guy. So we're making all these choices. Okay, is he really that strong? Is he really the fighter type character, or is he sort of stuck in a huge body and the next thing is his voice.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Or I should say his or her voice, because it could be a female character.
In this case, we're just using the standard brute sort of thing, which is historically being done by a male role.
Male.
Although I do know that the second Dungeons & Dragons movie did have the barbarian be female, and she pulled off that role rather well, I think. Especially given the absolutely dirt-bottom standards everyone was expecting after the first movie.
Yeah, and then there's Edda the Barbarian from Standard Action, who I probably will run into her again at Dark
Yes, that's right. You have a very good chance at seeing these actors and actresses.
I haven't watched much. I didn't catch the last season.
Have to get caught up a little.
I'll have to watch it before I see them all and say, "Hey, I loved your last thing that you did with the singing and the." I know they did singing. I know they did a musical version, which I'm actually kind of looking forward to.
Ooh,
so I'll put it in the show notes too, so other people can click on
Everyone, listen to the songs.
Listen to the Standard Action musical version. I hope it's not really terrible.
Hey, if there's one thing I've learned about musicals is that the worse they get, the more entertaining they get. Until you start cracking windows with bad notes.
All right. So you could have a very big, tall, tough, strong, muscly guy who likes to fight, and yet he has that Mike Tyson voice. So.
Well, it could just be like a random thing. I remember one character rolling up, and this was maybe the best set of stats I ever got. It was 117 and 5 14s.
Okay.
So it's pretty good stats.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I wanted to play a Scion, so I'll do this here. And they're like, what's my height? And I roll randomly, and I'm 1 inch off of maximum height. So here I am, I guess I was 6'3" then for a human. 6 foot, 3 inches tall. I got a 14, strength and constitution, so I am not a frail body. But what am I doing? I'm putting the 2 fingers to my head doing the scion thing. Wah! Not even a psychic warrior stuff. I'm doing pure on scion stuff because it was back in 3.0 and I had the right feats to max. Actually, my constitution was 17 because I was working off that instead of off of the intelligence score because it was really sweet that way.
But if you were
toughest scion ever,
if you were in a 1930s freak show and you had some kind of psychic, you had a psychic power or a theme to you, you were into psychic stuff. You say, I'm going to be a psychic guy, do mentalism or make things levitate or bend spoons.
Mentok, the mind taker.
But yet you happen to have this body that's sort of.
I do calisthenics every morning. Come on. Just because I can read minds doesn't mean I can't devote myself to some little physical health here. Come on, guys.
Yeah. It's a different because you expect the freak show people to. You have one one free.
You got one freak thing to do, buddy. You're the mind guy. Get a bigger head. Come back. Get some hydrocephalus and come on back and see me.
I like that giant head guy.
Well, that's the thing is you talk about Scion stuff, and all that, and it's Hector Hammond for the Green Lantern stuff is known for the large head and the wonderful pencil-thin mustache. And so it's you got over in the Marvel universe, you've got MODOK, the mental organism designed only for either killing or conquest, depending on which. There's several MODOKs there. It's like a thing that AIM does. It's kind of creepy. But what is he? He's like a huge head with these tiny little arms and legs. I mean, the cartoon, the Avengers, Assemble cartoon, he even had Thor remark, like a frost giant's head on a baby's body. And that's kind of a very accurate way of describing it. Because, he's got giant mental psychic powers. Of course he's going to be a large-headed individual with a weak, frail body.
I like that, where it's sort of
it plays to type.
Yeah, and it everything sort of slots into that one, and you focus all that attention, you focus the reader's attention, the person looking at the picture.
You take one look at him and you know what the situation is.
It's all of the visual cues are all pointing at this guy has a huge brain, and he's so it's very
he's
obvious.
So mentally developed but so physically underdeveloped he has to ride around in his own levitating chair all the time.
Yeah. And so as a person making a choice for a story, you can choose because that makes interesting characters, you can choose to sort of go with that and fit your character into that slot and be I'm a fightiest fighter guy and I am so strong and all I do is fight and that's me, I am that guy.
I am so big and strong I have to have the Austrian accent.
It's I am a round peg and I fit in exactly perfectly in the round hole of your preconceptions. You want it, you got it. Versus you can make a choice to say, oh no, I break that mold or I do.
And the fun thing with D&D, as I've always said, is that there's no wrong character.
Yeah.
You want the halfling barbarian, you can do that. It's completely valid. You want the half-orc, wizard, you can do that. It's completely valid. Even if you can, only wind up getting 4th level spells because your intelligence is 14, you know what? Still completely valid an option.
Yeah.
It's not like you chose wrong or you designed your character poorly. They can all run because the game works around who you are as the person.
Yeah. Well, D&D works also because if it fails or if your character isn't the most...
if everybody wants to play a wizard, you can have a campaign set around an all-wizard campaign.
Yeah.
It's not like...
Well, yeah.
It's not like something in Warcraft dude, why did you have 5 wizards try, a dungeon run? Why? Why 5 mages? You had 2 fire mages, an arcane mage, and 2 frost mages. What were you thinking? Of course you guys wiped 20 times before making it to the first, mini-boss.
And D&D is different, too, from, a comic book. If a comic book has too weird or too, the character doesn't work or the character doesn't meet the readers' expectations. Like, he's this huge guy and he never does anything physical, and the readers might not get it and they might not buy the comic, and they might be like, well, I don't really understand it, so I'll just, I'll leave it for another week and read this other book.
To be fair, one of the best things I like about, Hank McCoy, Beast, in the X-Men, is that, he's physically strong and tough. That's the kind of his mental, stuff is like what he developed. Mm-hmm. So for him, it's always about, like, who are you? What you make yourself to be, or what you naturally are. Beast is, at least he started off as like a ape, kind of like human, and then he wound up going like a blue skin, blue fur kind of guy. Now he's like some sort of Catman thing. Uh-huh. But it's always, like that's, who the mutation, that's who his genes said, this is what you have to be like. But he'd made the choice to be the smart scientist person. He chose to develop his brain. I mean, his physical skills ain't nothing to, just slouch at. But what makes the Beast, Hank McCoy, is his mentality. And so he plays somewhat against type. He's like the smart bruiser type thing.
Right.
But that just reinforces that he is who he wants to be, not who the, like the mutant gene says he has to be. And right. That's what I really like about him, sort of thing. Is he's like, no, I'm not going to play with the type just because I got the blue fur, just because I got the big, arms and legs, and I got the physical body mass, and I can heal pretty darn decent. Not like Wolverine, but he does heal pretty quick.
Right.
No. I am me because I choose this path of intellectual studies. I read. What did I do when I got imprisoned for, crimes that I didn't actually commit? I spent most of it in jail reading, waiting for my day in proper court. I didn't bust out. I could have busted out of jail, but I didn't. And that's what I liked about him was, that he made sure that I am me, not another, bruiser character. Okay. He could have just, given in and just, I'm big and strong, everyone do what I say. No, he's smart.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to be smart.
And now, I was trying to make a point about your D&D character not having any other audience besides the other people at the table, and they sort of basically they have to take it or leave it, and also they're bringing their own characters to the table, so you're only bringing one ingredient. So it's not like you're not like a comic book which stands or falls based on that character.
10 to 100,000 readers, depending on how good the circulation is.
Yeah, so you can...
Or I suppose more if you're going with the digital stuff these days. So, the webcomics are getting some good views, I've been told.
Yeah, So you have a bit more freedom in your personal, like, D&D campaign, or a campaign that, somebody's running and you're playing in, or whatever. You can play with those archetypes, and you can, like, break them a lot more sooner.
You don't have to worry about it being too confusing.
Yeah. On the other hand, it is the case that the books, like at earlier editions, they would flat out say, like, if you're a dwarf, you don't use magic. Like,
dwarves can't use magic. You do not have that option of being a wizard.
Yeah, and if you're a certain alignment, you can't be a bard. If you're lawful, you can't be a bard. Or
it did have some really weird restrictions, especially for dwarves, because dwarves couldn't be paladins. Only humans could be paladins.
Yeah.
But if you're a dwarf, you can be a cleric fighter. Let that sink in for a bit. What is a paladin? Kind of a cleric fighter.
Yeah, basically a cleric, yeah.
So you can be a cleric fighter, but you can't be a paladin.
Yeah.
That's a little weird.
And then, so, even though, like, those are kind of thrown up, the restrictions are all the time, more and more restrictions are being sort of shed, or more or less, like alignment.
So you're going to have a hard time explaining this off, but we're not going to say you can't.
Well, but that's what I was getting to. The next part about the D&D, the core D&D experience, does sort of steer players into these archetypes. It's like, oh, if you're
you are a better fighter when you're stronger.
Yeah, if you're this big guy, you might want to be that sort of archetype.
You are a better wizard when you're smarter.
And I wonder, like, how much of that is actually conducive to gameplay and, like, a better experience at the table, as opposed to how much of it is just simply that you have to, in order to fit, this rule set into a book, you have to basically rely on archetypes. Otherwise, you'd have, like, a 1,000-page rule book with every possible exception, or, you know what I mean?
Like I said, a good rule book is like a net. It catches the most amount of fish, or in this case, situations, with the least amount of cover.
Yeah, so it relies on those existing archetypes and stereotypes and...
Or just really well-written rules that are clear, concise, and just offer, like, a framework.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, if there's choices that you can make sort of role-playing wise, it says, well, those are sort of up to you. So instead of making rules...
If you want to have a Strength 9 fighter, you want to have an Intelligence 9 wizard, you can do that. Not the most efficient way about it, but in D&D, it's a valid way of doing it, and that's one of the beauties of it. You don't have to, it's like, I gotta min-max myself this way, otherwise I'm not going to be able to get into a group and it's not going to happen. It's like, all you gotta do is make sure that everyone's okay with that. No one's going to have, like, issues like, oh, God, he does nothing. He can't help it all. He's so worthless. He is just an XP sponge. As long as no one has that problem on it, go for it. That's kind of interesting.
We've been talking about this whole time about sort of the player character's perspective. Now, when you're the dungeon master, you're bringing in a new monster every, like, well, maybe 10 a week or
well, let's say
5.
Let's go with 2 non-violent encounters, sort of thing like dealing with stuff in town,
right?
And then we'll say 4 to 5, attack encounters. That's per like adventure sort of thing. That's how it's supposed to go. That's effectively 7 encounters of NPCs.
Okay, so probably most of those probably should kind of conform to archetypes and expectations. And monsters, they're big and brutal and they slobber and they attack and they're nasty. I fight.
Unless you want to do something really weird, like you encounter a bunch of like emaciated orcs. They're really all gaunt and pale and all that. But once you kill them, their skeletons rise up, and then you got to fight the skeletons. It's a 2-part fight, man.
Yeah, I like that. But again,
that's playing against type there, clearly.
Yes, but you're also adding in a few little cues about how those orcs are going to behave because they're emaciated. It's not just like, it's not they're emaciated orcs full stop. You added that little bit about, the skeletons. You add a little...
They're the necrorcs.
You can't help but add that little extra detail.
I have fun with that. That's what I do. That's who I am. Yeah. If it winds up becoming a bad pun, then I know I've effectively done things right, because all my good ideas lead to bad, horrible, horrible puns. I've learned to accept that with who I am and how I operate.
It would be necrorcs?
Necrorcs. I mean, heck, I once created a bird that raised the dead, and I wound up calling it the necrooster. Yeah. I couldn't take it seriously after that. The creature exists, I got all the stats for it, but I've never had the cojones to bring it in.
If you went necro-orcan, then it would be
the necrorcan.
It would be a palindrome.
Ooh. Well, now I have to do it. There we go.
The necrorcan.
Now I got to sit down and design a tribe of orcs that do that sort of thing. You forced my hand with your palindromic ways.
Yeah, and DMs probably think about this issue probably. Well, I don't know. They think about it in a different way because characters are player characters are very much more deep into the what am I? Who am I really as? Well,
sometimes they are. Other times they're I am level 5 fighter. Why?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they can be.
Depending on the lethality of the campaign, that's not necessarily a bad option though. Sometimes too.
But if a player has that, I mean, think how much more more shallow, less deep. The DM will be then with level 1 goblin, level 1 goblin, level 1 goblin, level 2 goblin, level 1 goblin, level 1 goblin, level 1 goblin.
Oh, hobgoblin! Hit your boss.
So yeah, if the players are bringing that kind of attitude, like how much more is the DM gonna bring that sort of attitude? I mean, maybe not. In some cases, the DM is like, okay, I'm crafting in each individual member. This is Gorb Snap, and he is 31 years old. He's the oldest goblin in the tribe, and he has a scar on his left cheek. And
sometimes I do like to think about what's going on with these goblin lives, because I mean they basically throw themselves all willy nilly. They are completely okay with dying for fighting a horribly outmatched battle. Mm-hmm. What is going on in their lives where it's like, if I go back home, I really don't have to. I got 4 dozen kids at home. They're all screaming. They'd be some of them be teething. They're on their 3rd set of teeth coming in. I just want the peaceful quiet of death attack. Is that how it goes? Is what situation's setting them up for that sort of crazy lifestyle where they're okay with fighting to the death despite bad odds, man?
Yeah.
And horribly well-matched adventures. I mean, some of these guys come in marching in with decent, shields and plate armor and all that. You're just an orc with a bad sword and leather armor. You really think you're going to do that with you and your 4 buddies? You were thinking about stabbing one of those buddies earlier today when you caught him cheating on the game of dice. And you probably could have done that. You could take him out. Do you think all 4 of you could take this guy out? And he's one of 4 guys equipped so well. And they still go on, Martin. I want to know, I want to get in this goblin's head a little bit. I want to sit down and think, what's going on with the goblin life where this isn't acceptable? Like, yes, I must do this.
And so, I guess we talked a little bit in previous episodes about breaking expectations, but like, could you have like an ogre who like shambles out of an ogre cave and like, who is bothering me? And then like, players.
You either buy my pottery or leave.
Well, yeah,
he's a potter.
He's just a guy with a pottery store. I mean, the pottery's pretty bad, but
it's huge pottery, though. I mean, like what he does for a small thing because of his size difference. I mean, that is like you could fit like a lot of stuff in there. And it's good thick pottery, though. It might not look good, but it's good thick pottery.
Good thick. Or on the other hand,
it's well made thick. It's not artistic. There's no scenes of like so and so fighting something on the side there. But this is quality manufactured pottery. I mean, it'll stand up as well as any.
On the other hand, like maybe it is like the best pottery in the land, and maybe like everybody except that's why he became such a recluse, because he was like getting like too crowded by the city, so he had to move off into the cave out in the wilderness, and people only go there to get the pottery from.
I changed my name to Bone Snap to keep you people away. Let me make my work in peace.
Yeah, but if you offer him, find something that he wants, I don't know what he might want, but you figure out.
Saltwater taffy.
Bone Snap. Yeah. That's his favorite
That's
thing.
the one thing he really does miss from back in the city. I mean, you really can't make that by yourself out in the wilderness. And you set him up with a thing, and like, doing like not just money for trade. He doesn't need money out in the wilderness. He does appreciate some of the better things in life. So you got to give himself like an ogre-sized, like a couch to lay down on when he's done. Maybe some large print books because they got to be for his size. And saltwater taffy, so he can really relax when he's out there on his for him this is like his cottage in the country sort of thing. It just happens to be for everyone else a cave in the middle of nowhere.
I like the thought too, like sometimes like it's this could almost be another podcast, and I'm feeling, but there's often this disconnect with. Sometimes you have like mechanics who know everything about a car, know their way inside and outside a car, and yet they have like a really run down, like barely running car themselves.
That's the same rule as why the best lawn maintenance people, the best lawnmowers and hedgers have the worst lawns.
Yeah.
You're doing that for 12 hours a day. The last thing you want to do is go home and do it again.
Yeah. So I wonder if does this pottery ogre guy.
Bone Snap, the ogre.
Oh, Bone Snap, the ogre. Does he like? I suppose he has to eat out of something, right? Or he has to store his food in some kind of.
He's got a lot of really salty fish stored up in the back, and he is so tired of that. He does like the salty taste. That's why he wants to go with the saltwater taffy, but just something that's not fish. By golly, Bone Snap wants saltwater taffy and falafel.
How do you? Okay. Falafel is made out of chickpeas, which is sort of like a legume, and spices.
It's a vegan dish.
Okay.
Kind of tasty. Only thing anyone in the Middle East will really agree on is lunch, and it's falafel. So.
Okay. Saltwater taffy, is that like made out of molasses, which is made out of sugar, which is from sugarcane, or is that different? What is taffy?
Well, I guess taffy comes from a numerous different stuff. I mean.
Oh, so it's.
Depends on the source or thing, but yeah, basically sugar cane and
like
mucking around,
or something. I don't know. Okay, we should probably wrap up.
But here's the thing though: is we can take like these real life examples and use them for a thing. Like let's go back to Rondo. He his first wife left him because he's so darn ugly. He managed to find someone who really does not only love him despite his different appearance, and for him it is a different appearance. For her, it's like how he's always looked, but for him, he used to be this handsome young man, willing to go into the military, and winds up, now I'm Rondo, the monster without makeup. But not only does she, love him for who he looks like, she encourages him to go out there and do stuff. You can apply that to a group within D&D. So you've got your half orc barbarian sort of thing, and we'll go with halfling rogue. And they're buddies, sort of thing. Why does he hang out with the halfling? It's like a different race, sort of thing. They're completely different people. So the halfling tries to bring out the best in them. It's like, oh, come on, we'll go do this. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll get a chance to get away from those people who are throwing like food at you and all that for being a half orc. We'll get away from that. It'll be like a camping trip. You'll love it. Camping's wonderful. Trust me on this. And so, why are these two members of the party? Because, well, he brings out the best in me. He's a good friend.
Yeah, well, and another aspect of, like, something that brings characters together is often that they are sort of outcasts otherwise. Like, why is this halfling, why is he not just living in a halfling village? Why, if he's a halfling rogue?
He looted everything already.
Well, exactly. So they both have their reasons for sort of being a little bit removed from society.
Maybe those halfling villages are, it's like really, really boring. Yeah. Maybe he wants to go and do something. That's why he's, hey, come on with my friend. Oh, doing something is fun, but doing something with friends, that's the best fun.
But here's my question: like, how come he didn't bring any of his, like, doesn't he have a brother or like somebody else, like a classmate?
So boring.
Also boring.
All they want to do is smoke pipe weed and eat all day, and they're so fat and lazy. None of them want to go anywhere. I just want someone who's willing to go over the hill without getting winded. This guy, he could do push-ups for a half hour, and he doesn't even get winded on us. I love this guy. He's willing to venture anywhere with me. No, I just got to do a little persuasion on him first, and that's why. So you get two members of like the party together, and that's what really makes it feel like a natural grouping, rather than just we all had to pay off a bar tab, and the bartender told us about a chance to get money or die, and he's okay with either of them. So as long as we don't drive up the tab anymore. So there's I mean, that kind of works, and that sounds kind of fun for a little one-off adventure sort of thing. But like the two, we're good friends. He brings out the best in me, and I like him because he doesn't see me for the ugly brute. He sees me as a person, an actual equal, a friend. Yeah. Which is, the reason why in the movie The House of Horrors, the creeper, he's so surprised. He wakes up the next morning, he's not dead. He's in a bed. Guy comes in, he's got food for him, and he calls him his friend. So you call me friend? And, like the fact, that anybody's willing to associate with him in anything other than I want to shoot you or kill you or arrest you capacity is surprising for him. And that's how they form their little friendship. And so the one guy's like, I must capture your likeness for posterity. This must be an eternal statue for bust for you. And it was like, you call me friend. This is very good. I would have liked to have seen things turn out differently. One dead, one shot. Creeper goes to the hospital and likely to get arrested, but he winds up in another movie, so I guess he escapes the cops, right?
Okay.
I haven't seen the last movie in the series, so. But yeah, it could have been a very good, buddy sort of thing. We both become better by being together, and that's a good thing to think about for party dynamics. Because the one guy's so ugly, anybody willing to see him as a person rather than just the face that he represents. That leads to depth. That leads to the beginning of a good friendship.
That's also in a way that's its own kind of sadness in that. He's not. I'm happy that he found a friend. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that he has a friend.
Spoiler alert: the friend, artist winds up using him to kill those who say wrong.
But that's the other problem with. He
didn't seem like he was really objecting to killing the people. It's just that in the end, when it looked like the creeper would wind up going to jail, and the artist would become famous for his sculpture. It didn't seem like quite a friendly idea anymore, sort of thing. You'd set me up to go to jail, sort of thing, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's two giant hands around the artist's neck getting ready to snap a spine.
Well, so it's kind of sad that you're forced to choose your friends, or you can't even choose your friends. You're automatically friends with whoever will tolerate you, basically. Which is kind of sad, yeah. It's a compelling story, but
on the other hand, not having to choose. Sometimes it's like this person's going to be your friend one way or another. You don't have much of a choice in it. Mm-hmm. You just have to enjoy the fact that you have a friend, because it beats no friend at all.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, all these little things. The more you think about it, like how does the stats affect your back history? How does that change things? Yeah. It's something really worth looking into. Because it just brief thoughts about it just add layers of depth and complexity, and that if you're writing a novel, that's going to really help you get a character noticed, as opposed to so we had like a half orcs thing in there, and like whatever, the guy was just like like a spine snap or whatever.
Oh, that reminds me, somebody I can't remember now. It might have been Neil Gaiman, who was listening another podcast, stealing from other podcast interviews.
Referencing other podcasts. That's what makes us high intellectual podcasting here.
But somebody asked Neil Gaiman how he writes women characters to be so believable, And he sort of like, he's like, oh, I don't know if I do. I mean, I hope I do, but he gave that.
If you believed it, then I guess I did.
He gave that sort of answer. But he also said something like, well, I just write them as people. Like, they're just characters. They have, they like being liked. They like being around other people. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have preferences about other people. So it's that whole thing. Like, how do you write believable, if you were to take the brute or whatever, just write him as a person, right?
And I think that's the best thing is just assume a standard human template, and then you got to put it in this body, and how does that change how they go about things, and how does their life, get changed by that, by the vessel that they're in.
Yeah.
The snappy blonde lady who's, wearing the sharp dresses, or the big brute who can only really find the most basic of clothes that fit him.
Did you ever read Kafka's Metamorphosis or heard of it?
I have heard of it.
The guy turns into like a cockroach or something.
Yeah,
I mean, that's sort of the extreme.
That's really kind of creepy, but it does work on different levels of thinking about, like, what is this a metaphor to describe? In which case, stuff like Agromegaly, or even situations where, invalid, it's like all of a sudden you can't do stuff, I guess I'm just like a giant cockroach. All I do is leech off stuff, and everyone hates me, and I'm kind of.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a nice way to think about. Good reading to give up. If you've read Kafka's Metamorphosis, then you're at least one step ahead on the cultured classical readings, right?
Yeah.
And that never hurts in the long run.
So there's another recommendation.
But if there's anyone else out there, other people known for being the brute, well, I think we'd like to hear it. How could people get a hold of us, Josh?
Oh, they can send us emails at thesimulationist@gmail.com.
And that's all one word, right?
That's all one word. Or if you just have a short little, I don't know, something to you have one name of a character or a reference.
Hey, Josh. Google blank, and that could be done like as a tweet then, right?
You might want to tweet it at me if you have a Twitter account. I do, although I really should use it more because I'm sort of draining. I used to have, I think I was at about 40 at that peak.
Ooh.
Now I'm back down to about 20 followers. So, for those of you who did, sign up and follow me, thank you. But if you stopped, I'm sorry. But I'm going to try.
You'll try to get back up to speed later.
But if you want my tweet handle, it's at SpaceBoot1.
That's the numeral 1, not Space Bootone.
Yeah, SpaceBoot1. SpaceBoot numeral 1. Yeah, SpaceBootone is my YouTube, but that's not important either.
At the moment,
not right now. But there is a Simulationist YouTube channel also. It's just these same podcasts up there with a little picture. There's no video yet. Although
it's nice and easy to get a quick load ups or things. Like, I just want to get the latest, iteration of these guys here. Just a Google search away.
Yep. And it's another handy way for people to leave comments on it because YouTube automatically handles all that junk. So all you have to do is just type it in and we'll see it.
I think Facebook's pretty good. I always try and do at least a daily check on Facebook. So if you guys put something on there, 24 hours later, I'll have at least read it.
Yeah, so find us on Facebook also, and there's little handy discussion boxes. You can talk back and forth with other simulationists.
Simulats. Simulites?
Simulate.
Is that what we can call our fans? Simulites?
Well, I've always said I think we should try and I don't know if we have fans.
Simoleons?
We do have listeners.
Yeah.
But if we ever get real fans, I would hope that they could sort of name themselves. But
well, they can't just call themselves the Sims because EA kind of took that one a long time ago.
And I also realized sort of somewhere halfway through the podcast that, maybe people might think this was the Sims podcast because it starts with the same 6 letters. But anyways, that's not important. And
so long as EA doesn't put out like a Sims expansion pack called the Ulationists, we're fine.
Okay, yeah, we should be good.
I think.
Unless they like struck a deal with us, that'd be pretty awesome.
I can dig it.
If they're listening right now, hey.
You're not that evil. I wouldn't object to make a deal with you guys.
They're only like across the water from us, so.
And that's what scares me the most. No, I mean, no. But yes. I suppose that's about the end of our podcast this week. Something to think about. Nice conspiracy theory and some ideas about adding more depth to the characters, whether it's in a video game that you're writing up, whether it's in a novel you're writing up, or whether it's just a game you're playing with friends.
Mm-hmm. All right, well.
Take the time, think about it, and just reflection leads to greater depths. That's, I think, the most underlying principle we've tried to give iteration upon iteration. So get out there and think about it. And then you know what? We'll hear from you guys again in 7 days. You'll hear from us in 7, definitely.
Yep. I've been Josh Treleaven.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.